Shepherd's pie. Greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for a coffee and a chat. I want to have a little talk today about a topic that I have touched on in previous videos, and I'm going to revisit it. But why am I going to revisit it? And that's a very reasonable question. The reason I'm going to revisit it is because it is a clear and present danger. It is an ongoing theme in the Philippines. To be honest with you, it's probably an ongoing theme throughout Southeast Asia. And I am not arrogant enough to think that I can change it, because clearly I can't. I am just talking about it because it is relevant to so many people. Because there is not a day or a week goes by when I don't bump into someone in a bar or a restaurant who sits down and tells me how they have found the love of their life, how they have met someone through an LDR and they have just arrived in the Philippines and everything is rosy and they're about to get married and they have already bought some land which they are going to build a house upon. Or you will see a YouTube video where some guy is blissfully happy after just arriving in the Philippines after 3 years on an LDR, and he's just met his girlfriend and she is his soulmate and they were meant to be together. It was written in the stars. And every time I hear that, my reaction is always the same.
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You are a fucking idiot.
Now, I don't think that's me being harsh. It really isn't. It is the way that I would say the vast majority of seasoned expats would look at the situation. Certainly in Thailand and the Philippines or Cambodia. I think it is basically the way that a lot of sane individuals, mature individuals around the world would look at it from the outside, but it doesn't change the way it is. You know, as I say, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I can change it. I wouldn't want to change it. I honestly don't have anything against LDRs. I have never been in one. They may work for you. They may not work for you. As I say, you know, I'm sure there are many people who at the end of an LDR end up being together blissfully happy for the rest of their lives. Equally, there are some who it will end in tears after a few weeks when they actually spend time together. I say, I am not championing them. I am not advising against them. I am just going to try and share, without upsetting anyone hopefully, the benefit of my experience. Not my experiences in terms of relationships. Who am I to give advice on things like that? I've been divorced twice. But I have, during my time in Asia, I have met a lot of people who have been involved in LDRs, have got boots on the ground, and have gone through what I'm about to talk about. Some have come out smiling on the other side. Some it's ended in tears. Some it remains to be seen. And only with the passage of time will we know how that ends up. But it is a topic of conversation. Even in the last 6 months, I have had a number of people telling me their woes who are in the situation I'm about to discuss. So whoever you are out there, if any of you are watching, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the other guy. Because I've had this conversation with a lot of people. So please don't think I am talking about you specifically on this video. Because the reality is, when you arrive here in the Philippines, when you have been involved on an LDR, that's a long distance relationship. If anyone doesn't know the terminology, I'm sure you all do. The reality is you are invariably going to face a rocky road ahead. And sadly, it's not that kind of rocky road. It's this kind. Because you are inevitably going to be faced by the challenge of age gaps, not always, but a lot of the time. certainly cultural difficulties, and a hell of a lot by expectation differences, because you are invariably, almost guaranteed, going to have different expectations. The age difference, the fact that you've grown up in different continents, been exposed to different family pressures, you've grown up different lives. That's why I always have such a wry smile when I see people saying they're soulmates, when one of them's from America, the other one's from some small island in the Philippines. There's a 30-year age gap between them, and somehow the chap seems to think he's found his. Of course, you haven't. There are going to be massive cultural differences. There are going to be massive difference in interests, hobbies, all the rest of it. There is bound to be when there is an age gap involved and a different culture. Now, that doesn't mean you can't overcome these difficulties. As I say, I am not for 1 second suggesting that that LDRs are a bad thing. They're not for me. For a lot of people, maybe someone, hopefully a lot of the people who are watching this video, it was the only option. It's a changing world. I'm an old boy now. Internet dating and all that wasn't really a thing when I was growing up. And for a lot of people, as I say, it will work. But the reality is, invariably, I keep using that word invariably, because there will be exceptions to the rule. When you first hit town and you get your boots on the ground, you're going to go through the honeymoon period and you're going to think everything is fantastic and you're both going to be blissfully in love. But trust me, it is very rare that honeymoon period is going to last for more than the first few weeks, the first month or so. Then you are going to be hit with a huge dose of reality. And I don't think that's a bad thing, in all honesty, because you need to get to know each other. As I keep saying, I'm not trying to talk anyone out of long distance relationships. My own advice would be, boots on the ground, meet someone when you get here. But, that's not for everyone. I mean, you may have been talking to someone for like 2-3 years and she may be the one for you, you think. And maybe she is. I'm just saying, be prepared for the fact that you will have a hell of a learning curve when you first arrive here. Both of you will. Not just about the Philippines for you, but for both of you about each other. Because let's face it, you don't really know each other. You know the image you have portrayed of each other. And let's be honest now. I mean, if you look into your heart and you think about it and you're honest with yourself, have you not been on your best behaviour for the vast majority of the video calls and the chats or whatever form you've kept in touch with each other? Of course you have. And I'm sure she has. Now, let's get the gold diggers out the way. Yeah, there will be gold diggers along the way. There are a lot of gold diggers in the Philippines. There are a lot of gold diggers everywhere. It's just that you're more likely, because your money goes further here, to be more of a catch than you are in the West. I'm sure if you've got millions in the West, you will have a gold digger problem there too. But yeah, there is always going to be a danger of gold diggers. Hopefully you have weeded that out during the process, and hopefully it's the girl for you. If it's not, and you haven't realised yet, and you still don't realise, then you're bang in trouble. There's not much I can say to you. I'm not talking about that. What I'm trying to explain here is, in a roundabout way, not very succinctly, I do apologise, but I do ramble, it's going to be difficult. There are tough times ahead, and that is perfectly normal. I have mentioned before, I think one of the reasons I'm talking about this is it's not just my time in Asia I've seen this. I grew up, or spent a large part of my life, in a borough of London called Newham. And I joined the Air Force, and when I came out, I lived in a city called Leicester, in the Midlands in the UK. And both those areas were predominantly Asian. I don't know what the figures are now, but I think when I was living in Leicester, it was 55% Asian, mainly from India. And in Newham, it was a majority Asian again, but there was a lot from Pakistan and Bangladesh there. Don't think it was predominantly Indian. But the point is, I have a lot of Asian friends in the UK. And when I was growing up, as we got older, a lot of them went into arranged marriages. This may surprise you, but the majority of the world are arranged marriages. I think I looked a couple of years back, one of my early videos, 52% of the marriages in the world are arranged marriages. I have nothing against arranged marriages. Some of my friends who have gone the arranged route are blissfully happy now in the UK. And I think the divorce rates, I haven't looked at the statistics, are probably considerably lower than they are for, people who just meet and fall in love at first sight and all that good stuff. I'm not championing arranged marriages. I know you'll hear some terrible stories about people who are forced into the marriages, but that wasn't my experience in the friends that I knew. But the point is, they went through that same period. They were still basically thrust together with someone they didn't know very well, who had come from India, who didn't know the Western culture. The roles were reversed, if you will. Whereas it's you who are coming here, they were coming from India and they were going there. And the point was, it took time for them to get to understand and know each other, to manage each other's expectations. And there were times in a few of them, you watch from the outside thinking, this is not going to work. It's not going to work out. And it invariably did. Now, a lot of that, in terms of the Indian relationships in the UK, it will have been because of cultural pressures. It will have been because of family pressures. It wasn't so easy for them to walk away as it might be in the Philippines, which is why maybe more of the long distance relationships fail over here. Again, I have no statistics for that. I'm just chewing the fat. I'm just talking to you, giving you my experiences and what I have observed over the years. But and I say, I know there's a difference between, arranged marriages and long distance relationships. But what I'm getting at is you don't really know each other until you have spent 24 hours in each other's company, which you're going to do when you come here. And trust me, things are going to change. My word of warning would be, if you spend a few months together and you don't have an argument and you don't have a disagreement and everything is blissful and, I'd start to worry, because I don't think that's normal. And as I say, there is no reason why you won't overcome this. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying be prepared for it. It's normal. The two of you don't know each other. And it is all very well saying, I've explained it. I've written out the lines in the sand. I've explained how things are going to work. I've told her I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Well, she's a woman. Why do you think she's going to take that on board? You've got expectations. She's going to have expectations. When you get here, it's all about managing those expectations. And that's all I'm saying in this video. I'm saying be prepared for a rocky road. Be prepared for difficulties. I know people who've been here for married for 10, 20, 30 years over here. And when you talk to them and you get to know them, and these are good friends, they had rocky patches in the beginning. They had rocky patches when they first took their partner back to the UK or to the States. When they first arrived here, invariably, they had family members sticking their oar in, trying to change things. The point is, you need to set parameters, of course you do. But, sometimes you're going to have to be flexible on those parameters. If you think it's just going to be your way or the highway, then your relationship is probably not going to work. And as I say, I think this is a very healthy thing, because hopefully you will. If you take on board what she wants and you listen to her and her requests are reasonable, then hopefully you should be able to find some common ground. You really should. And if you can't, then maybe they're not the person you thought they were, and maybe it's not for you. But equally realise it's just as likely that she's going to be having the same thoughts. You might like to think you're the only significant person in this equation, but we're talking about a relationship here. And there is a magic word in the Philippines, when I've spoken to expats and I've interviewed the people who've been here for a long time, and when I've done some stop and chats about, with other expats about the Philippines, there is a word that keeps cropping up. And to be honest with you, it really is essential for the Philippines. It's patience. Patience. You need to be patient here. You need to be patient when it comes to adjusting to the culture over here, because patience is a key thing. And you need to be patient in your relationships. And if you do, get through those first few months, and I'm not saying you won't, then you may well go on to be blissfully happy for the rest of your lives. Let's hope you do. I mean, I really do. I really am not counselling you against doing it. I'm just saying be prepared for the rocky road and try not to put more pressure on yourselves than you have to. I know a couple of guys I've spoken to in the last 6 months who got married straight off the bat and are having these problems, and they are questioning whether they made the right decision. Fortunately, they stayed together on both of those situations. But the point is, they have added pressure by getting married. Now, maybe the pressure of that marriage will keep them together ultimately, and it will be a good thing. But the point is, it was a pressure that they didn't need, I would suggest. And your Filipino may be pushing for marriage, but maybe sometimes you have to step back and think, what's in their best interest? Because the reality is, as a Westerner, you can walk away from the marriage. She can't. She can't. It's very hard to get divorces over here, very expensive, very hard to get annulments. So you may well be doing her a favour by putting things on the back boiler, by waiting. It's the same with buying land and building a house. Take your time. I've said it a million times in videos, but it really is advice coming from the heart. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your lives. I'm just saying it is an added pressure. Most people would say, if they're being logical and reasonable, just take your time. Don't rush into anything. Hopefully you have found the love of your life. Hopefully you two will turn out to be incredibly compatible, and it's the relationship that you both dreamt of. But when you're going through that rickety road, the last thing you want to have is the pressure of being recently married, the pressure of you can't feel like you can walk away, you feel trapped, or she feel trapped because you've purchased land and done all those other good things. And that is really the crux of this video. I'm really not trying to tell you how to live your lives. I'm just trying to give you a bit of friendly advice, not based on my experiences, but based on the experience of others. Because there is something that definitely happens to a lot of expats when they come here. They are seemingly intoxicated by the beauty and the age of their newfound partner, and they just throw common sense out the window. They do what others might consider to be stupid things. It doesn't mean they're stupid people. It doesn't mean you are a stupid person for thinking about doing these things. And if you've already done them, best of luck to you. There is no looking back. We don't have a time machine. You can't go back and change it. But if you haven't done, honestly, please err on the side of caution. If she is the woman of your dreams, and she really is the partner that you've been looking for, and you are the partner that she has been looking for, then it will still be the same situation a year down the line. You don't have to get married now. You don't have to. What does that achieve? You can still buy land and build a house a couple of years down the line. You don't need to rush in and do it now, unless she's not the woman of your dreams, unless you are doing it because you're terrified of losing her. Well, if you are, then maybe it would be a good thing if you did lose her, because that to me is not the foundation of a healthy relationship, and that is not the foundation. The fear of losing someone is not a good excuse or a good reason or a logical reason for rushing in and diving headfirst into the relationship, I would suggest. And be aware, a lot of her motivations are the same thing. she probably is terrified of losing you. That's why she wants to get married. That's why she wants to build the land and do all the rest of it, because she wants to trap you. Not because she's a gold digger. And she probably doesn't want to trap you consciously. That's not the way she will be looking at it from an Asian point of view. But the point is, she doesn't want to trap an unhappy man. She doesn't want to trap someone who's going to walk away in the very near future. So, be the adult in the room. Slow it down, and it will benefit both of you. Anyway, I've said my piece now. I'm not going to ramble on. That is my advice. Don't automatically think when you arrive here, if you start having problems, that you've made a massive mistake. It is perfectly normal. It is a learning curve for both of you. There is no reason why, if you both listen to each other, take the time to understand each other, that you can't work it out. And if you are in a long distance relationship and you're having doubts, take it slowly, but just be realistic about this. Just be realistic. Much as you want to convince yourself that you found your soulmate, your dream partner, the reality is you may have done, you might not have done, you don't know. Only time will tell. So let time tell. Take your time. Anyway, I've said my piece now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fantastic if you did. But whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe and be lucky.